The influence from the Sebek faculty. This faculty takes in reality as pieces of verbal information and thus breaks the world into an infinite array of separate and isolated symbols. It is therefore the source of all segregative behavior, discrimination by race, gender, age, etc. The division of medicine from diet, religion from science and government, ourselves from God as two distinct categories of being, as opposed to the same with quantitative differences, man from nature, and so on. It gives names to things, defines and describes them. It is the source of the greatest problems in the world because in the life of the spiritually immature, it masquerades as the faculty of knowing. Whenever we want or need to know, it interposes a verbal symbol, a name or definition, between us and the reality we are seeking to know, armed with a host of degrees representing, for most people, certification of mastery of names and formulas, definitions and descriptions. SAHU man goes on to assume the reins, so he believes, of society. He has heard. This faculty is the left side of the brain, thus cannot see about God and concludes he knows God. He has heard about democracy and proceeds to kill and die for a democracy in which some people are more equal than others. Remember, dogs can recognize hundreds of verbal commands, and parrots can repeat a few. Incidentally, the Setians, Satans if you prefer, control the SAHU man by taking advantage of the combined action of this predisposition to use words without understanding the realities for which they stand, although the definition has been grasped, with the indiscriminate imitation of the ninth sphere. SAHU man is readily manipulated by a large arsenal of slogans or buzzwords. Another important influence from this faculty concerns the power of belief. Because there is no guidance from the higher faculties, the SAHU man does not know that beliefs or ideas contemplated in a state of trance gain the power to shape behavior for good or for bad. The influence from the Neteru faculty. It is the source of the images we entertain, showing how we should react or feel in a given situation, how we desire events to go, and so on. Because there is no guidance from the higher faculties, the SAHU man does not know that these images are just not depictments of desired outcomes. They act as funnels that direct the flow of the forces of nature to the accomplishment of these events, as well as the means of conditioning our spirit to behave as visualized. Without knowing, SAHU man will sometimes program her spirit for success as much as for failure by entertaining at one time positive visualizations and at others negative ones. Its worst manifestation is to be seen in the misunderstanding and misuse of art, which is a highly formalized system of manipulating people's imagination for programming purposes. Set, the negative manifestation of SAHU man, Satan, the devil. SAHU man was defined as the type of man in which the faculties of the 10th up to the 7th were awakened, and in some cases the lower third of the sixth was also awakened. The SAHU man that we have so far described is the type in whom even less than the lower third of the sixth sphere, the will, is not awakened. The widespread lack of development of people's will is to be seen in the vast popularity of dangerous and desperate gimmicks to help people curb their appetite, take off weight, stop smoking, reduce high blood pressure, when proper diet will do, etc. The full extent of the deficiency in people's will is hidden by the common mistaking of desire and passion for expressions of the will. Many successful people are characterized as strong-willed people, when in reality they have been driven by the animal part of their being in the pursuit of the joys and pleasure that come directly or indirectly from their accomplishments. Once we take this into account, the number of people we believe to have a strong will and discipline greatly diminishes. Thus, we must take note of the SAHU man with a smidgen of a will, set. There is not enough of it for him to receive guidance from the higher faculties as yet, and establish full mastery over the lower faculties. There is just enough for him to gain sufficient directive power over the lower faculties to rise above his fellow SAHU men. Not receiving input from the higher faculties, he turns his advantage to the exploitation of his non-Setian SAHU fellow men. This smidgen of Heru gives Set enough insight to figure out the weaknesses of SAHU man, which enables him to usurp the reins of leadership from the Ab and the Ausar man. Set, which is the origin of the name Satan, is the Kemetic conception of evil personified, the devil. It is a man who willfully and knowingly places his intellectual and artistic faculties in the service and gratification of the animal part of being. This entails acts of willful distortion of truth and the exploitation of others and the environment. We will have ample opportunities to see that this definition of Set is the essence of Satanism. The animalistic factor of Set was taken over by the Christians, who represented Satan as the red man with a tail, horns, and hooves. His true power rests in the mental limitations of his subjects and victims, SAHU men. He preys upon the SAHU man's gullibility, ignorance, greed, selfishness, docility, identification with the person, misuse and ignorance of the true functions of belief and the imagination, and sex, etc. The SAHU man will oppose to the death anyone who seeks to deny him of his living for the sake of and in slavery to gratification, which is the uncompromising message he receives from the Ab and Ausar man. She is totally satisfied with the crumbs portion of her complicity with Set. He is 85% of the population, sharing in 15% of the wealth and the glamour and honors of sitting in the seats of doctors, philosophers, priests, teachers, governors, judges, artists, and others. In other words, the power of Set is the power given to him out of ignorance by the SAHU man. Of course, from the definition of Set, It should be clear that there is some degree of Satanism in every SAHU man. Do you distort the truth in order to gratify your emotions and sensual passions? Do you distort the truth to shift blame away from your person at the expense of others? Do you conceal the truth in order to avoid losses at the expense of others? Summary. Behavioral qualities: SAHU man, Set, Ab man, and Ausar man. Predominantly right brain, the Ab man and the Ausar man. Predominantly left brain, the SAHU man and Set. Influenced by the animal spirit, emotions, desires, SAHU man and Set. Seeing dominates thinking, the Ab man and the Ausar man. Hearing dominates thinking, the SAHU man and the Set man. Can perceive reality itself, the Ausar man. Can understand, can grasp ideas indicating underlying inner aspects of things, the Ab man and the Ausar man. Can grasp ideas indicating outer aspects of things, the SAHU, Set, Ab, and Ausar man. Has access to spiritual power, minimal for the SAHU man, minimal for the Set man, mid for the Ab man, and full for the Ausar man. Has capacity for full impartiality in society, the Ausar man. Can direct religious life of community, government, economics, etc., the Ausar man. Can conduct religious services, governmental services, etc., the Ab man and Ausar man. Is qualified to shape culture, the Ab man and the Ausar man. Is shaped by culture, SAHU man and Set. Is shaped by the word of the law, the Ab man. Intuitively lives law, the Ausar man.